Okay, so we are back here. Have a little bit of review in this lesson. We're talking about transformations again. We're talking about rotations, and just kind of getting a basic, making sure that we have a basic understanding of those things. So, in our shapes down here, we have, pardon my hand, we have two different shapes, and if you look closely, it's hard to see in the video, but they're actually labeled differently. This one is C, B, A, and D, and this one's not C, B, and A, and D prime. This one is Q, R, S, and T. But if we take a look at what our lines in here, we've been talking about what it means when there's one line here, and then there's one line here with another symbol in it. Okay, so, and we have four angles here, so we know that if it's got three lines over here, like angle C has three lines and angle S has three lines, so we know that those two lines have the same angle. They're the same, they are congruent to each other. Same thing with our two marks here and our two marks here. Okay, so we know those two things are congruent with each other. So if we start imagining, like, what would we have to do to this shape to move it to this shape and make them match up, we can start thinking about, like, how the fact that if we rotate this guy, we'll notice that this three marks, if we rotated this 90 degrees to get the point to match up here, right, or 180 degrees to get the point to match up here, it would have the three marks would be on the wrong side. So we're going to end up having to do a reflection. So this one is going to be, you're going to rotate it. This is just asking us up here, it's just asking us to describe the transformations and what's happening. So we're going to rotate. Rotate 180 degrees. Okay, we don't have any points here. I know it says be specific, but we don't actually have any graphs here, so that tells us what the numbers are. So we can't really be that specific, but we can. So we're going to rotate around this dot. We can call it dot Z. Okay, we're going to rotate around Z 180 degrees. So it brings that S and C, which are the two congruent angles. But then what we're going to have to do is reflect. So we're going to reflect and flip it over. Okay, so we're taking this and we're rotating it this way. Okay, and then we have to flip it over because we want these two to match up. Okay, it would be, if we didn't reflect on it, then they would be on the wrong side. All right. Okay, I'm gonna start going a little faster here since this is review, and we got to get through two lessons today. The given figures are supposed to be to be used as pre-images. Perform the stated transformations and obtain the image. Label the corresponding parts of the image in accordance with the pre-image. Okay, so number one has two steps here. It says reflect the triangle over the line at y equals x and label the pre-image A prime, B prime, C prime. Okay, well, the first thing you got to do is you actually have to graph your line, and this line is in y equals mx plus b form. Okay, so there is no b, so that means it runs right through our origin. Okay, so the y-intercept is 0, and our slope is 1, so it's up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. Okay, so here's our line. It's going to go down this way as well. Okay. So I'm going to draw my line here. All right, so it's asking us to reflect over y equals x. And so now we can just kind of count the spaces between where your image is and the line, and you just have to kind of do the same thing on the other side of it. So this is our axis here, and so we're going to go A, and then so that's 1 away, so it's got to be 1 away over here. So here's A prime. And so B is going to be 1, 2, 3. So this one's 1, 2, 3. So here's B prime. Okay, and then C is 1, 2, 3. So C is 1, 2, 3. Oh, that can't be right. What am I missing here? So let's try that one more time. So C is 1, 2, 3.5, and then 1/2, 1, 2, 3. That looks better. So here's C prime. All right. So we've got our first reflection. Okay, so we've got our reflection in. Check, done. And then it says rotate triangle A prime, B prime, and C prime 180 degrees counterclockwise around the origin, and we'll label it A prime prime, B prime prime, C prime prime. Okay, so this is going to our second image, right? It's not asking us to rotate the first image, it's asking us to rotate this image. So it says rotate it 180 degrees around the origin. So if we're here and we need to move it up here, okay, so it's actually going to be somewhere up here. Okay, so our line, our new image should be somewhere up here, all right? So if it's on this side and we rotate this, you guys got to start doing this in your head, okay? So if we're rotating it here, it's got to stay on this side of my pen, right? So as we rotate it, my finger's got to stay on that side of the pen, so it's got to be somewhere up here. And so you've got to start predicting where you think this thing's going to end up being at, so you can get pretty good at it. All right. So, all right. So, I know that we are on my A prime is 1, 2, 3. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know that it can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here is A prime prime. So we can do that with B as well. So we can say, well, I know that it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1 over. So that means I've got to count up. Oh, wait a minute, did I do that wrong? So is that right? Yeah, I think so. So it is going to be 1, 2, let's just count that one more time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and over 1. Yep, that is right, because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces between A prime and B prime, and so we've got 4 spaces right there. So we are pretty sure that we've done that right. And then we can count C, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then over 2. So we're just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then over 2. And there is C prime. Okay. Okay, so actually they asked us to label it with 2 primes, so make sure you're putting 2 primes on there. Okay, so we've rotated it down, and so we've done step 2 there, okay? So the next couple, it says reflect it over y equals -x, so I'm going to give you the line. I would like you to reflect that on your own, and you can check your answers here. Later on, I'll give you the answers. But I need you to try. You've got to do your part. If you're not doing your part and you're only just passively watching these videos and copying down what you see on the screen, you're missing out on it. You're missing out on 90% of what we're trying to accomplish here. You actually have to try the work yourself. Math is not copying down stuff on a screen. You've got to try on your own. If you don't try on your own and make mistakes and correct those mistakes, you're not learning math. Okay, so this one, it says reflect over the line. Remember, you want to just try to count the spaces that you have to the line and then make sure you're repeating that on the other side. And then it says reflect over the y-axis and then rotate. So it's asking you to reflect, then rotate. So there's 2 steps. So step 1 is reflect. Step 2 is rotate. Okay. Step 1 is reflect, step 2 is rotate. All right. So these are still transformations, so this is a part of what you're going to have to get done in class, so I want you guys to make sure you're working through it. This one, I'll give you a little hint. It does say why it's written in a silly form. They're trying to throw you off here, so make sure that you write that in y equals mx plus b form. It'll make it a little easier to graph. So start off at 2 and then you go up 1 over 1, and then you can do your reflection of ABC over that line. Okay, and then you're going to rotate around point -2, -3. So I'm gonna let you guys struggle on that one a little bit. I think that struggle is good. Okay, so everything else you should be able to do. You should be able to describe. You should be able to do these things on your own because it's all review. Your homework is probably what you're gonna struggle with because there's 2 lines on there. I'm asking you to graph 2 lines. And then let's see, graph systems and functions and making comparisons. Graph each pair of functions and make an observation. Oh, wow. So when it says make an observation, okay, that doesn't just mean graph your homework. It actually means say something about it, okay? So it can be literally anything. It just says make an observations comparing the 2 functions to each other. So let's work through the first one together, okay? So we have y equals 1/3 x minus 1. So we're going to start off at -1 on the y-axis, and then we have 1/3, up 1/3 on the y-axis, and so we go up 1/3, and then down 1, okay? So we have our first line here. All right. And then our next one, we have starting on -1, and we have -1, -2, -3 over 1. And we have up 1/2/3 and 1. All right. Okay, so you're only partially there, right? What you need to do now is make an observation. There's a bunch of observations that you could make about this one. The first one I see is they both cross the y-axis at -1. So both lines cross through 0, -1. Okay. The other thing I notice about it is that they are perpendicular. Okay. They create a 90-degree angle. They create a 90-degree angle. Okay. So what else do we have? They have opposite inverse slopes. Okay. There's slopes. One is 1/3. The other is the negative inverse of that, of -3/1. Okay, so there's a bunch of observations that you can make about all of these. Okay, so you're going to work through these 3 in class, and then we've got to move on to the next section. Okay, that's 12 minutes. Here you go.